Ladies and gentlemen, Executive Vice President of Products and Solutions, John Maddison.
Good morning, everyone. Some smart people on that panel before me. Two observations. Number one is Fortinet really likes Arkansas, okay? So that's not our opinion. And also, we're equally good at protecting power stations and slushies. Both very important. All right, it's time to nerd down a bit. Now, some people get a bit nervous when we do some high-tech demos, and so I've got a little tip for you. If you have a pen, just take it out like this, just place it in your top pocket, and you can be a nerd too. Alrighty, before we get going on the demos, I want to make sure people understand how difficult it is to build what we just saw in terms of the security fabric. The only real way you can do that is through organic development. And we have two major R&D centers, one in Burnaby, Vancouver, and one in Sunnyvale. Some companies will try and acquire pieces and try and weld it together. But in our opinion, to build a true unified cyber security platform, you need to do it organically. So, we're going to do a demo. Now, of course, with all live demos, they can go wrong. And it's already gone wrong. Because unfortunately, Robert May, who was doing this demo, turned ill. And so what we're going to do is play a recording. It's kind of like the cooking show. This is something I prepared earlier. So we're going to play a video. It's about 10 minutes. And again, it's a bit nerdy. And it's about looking at the graphical representation of the fabric you just saw on the video beforehand, how you put it together, how you configure it. It's about 10 minutes, so we're going to play that now. Unfortunately, it's a recording, but still very interesting.
In today's demo, we're going to see how Security Fabric 6.2 helps operations teams to have broad visibility across their digital attack surface, and also provides the tools to help them streamline and automate their daily operations. This, of course, frees them up to tackle the new phases of digital transformation needed for their business. Now let's go ahead and log in, and the place we want to start is with that broad visibility. If I'm in operations, I need to have a clear picture of the network so that as things are changing, as I'm adding technology, I have a home base that I can always refer to and trust. Now, of course, if I don't have a security fabric in place, I'm not going to be able to see a lot. Maybe some directly connected hosts or some upstream, downstream routers, but not much else. But as soon as I enable the security fabric, I'm immediately going to be able to get all of that rich information. How the network is segmented, where the endpoints are located relative to each other, all of my remote location information and other information that's available through the security fabric. On top of that, I'm also going to be able to see all details of my endpoints. So I'll be able to see things like what's connected right now, who's logged into each endpoint, what operating system or applications are installed, and importantly, are there any critical vulnerabilities that I need to take care of right away? And lastly, the other core component is FortiAnalyzer. It's seeing all of the logs from all of the devices and endpoints connected to the fabric, and using the latest threat intel from FortiGuard, it's going to be able to correlate all of the endpoint activities and alert me if there's any compromised hosts in my network. Now, everything we've seen up to now, this is all available in 6.0 already. So let's take a look next at some new things in 6.2. If we consider first some features coming from the core FortiGates, we can look at features like SD-WAN. And SD-WAN, for example, is involved with collecting a lot of information, telemetry information about links, bandwidth, different application properties. If any site connected to the fabric has a critical outage, I can quickly see that, I can click on it, and I can pull up all of the rich information that's already exists behind the scenes, providing very, very fast response time for such issues. So SD-WAN shows one example of how additional telemetry data, which the core products already have, can be made even more visible and actionable within the topology. And along this line, one of the areas of 6.2 that we spent a lot of time to develop is a framework which now enables any of the Fortinet family to join. And aside from simply showing up in the topology, this framework enables those products to exchange telemetry data with the fabric about different traffic or endpoints that it's seeing, and it also provides them a mechanism to raise alerts or other information which the operations may need to take care of quickly. In the example that you're seeing here, we can see FortiADC. It's able to join the fabric, it's able to share information, I can click on it, and I can pull back relevant details from that product and show it up directly in this topology view. Now at this point, the next question is usually, well, what about my third-party products? And the answer is yes. Using the connectors that we've built, we're able to reach through those connectors to discover and pull back the relevant telemetry data and provide all of the necessary details for the administrator directly in this view. So let's take a look at, say for example, I have a multi-cloud environment. I'm now able to add my AWS segment, add my Azure segment on here, and I can see how it's connected to the rest of my network. But that's not all. I'm also able to see what instances are installed there, what's running on each instance, are there any critical vulnerabilities that I need to pay attention? So just like with all of my Fortinet products and all of my core products, I'm able to also now see third-party products, all of that data being pulled together and made very, very visible and actionable for the administrator. So now let's go take a look at some of the other fabric connectors that have been added in 6.2. If you remember in version 6, a lot of the focus was around public cloud and the integration capabilities there. And there have been some incremental things added in public cloud, but most of the expansion in 6.2 is centered around two other areas. Number one is private cloud and SDN. We're now able to integrate with more and more systems such as VMware NSXT and also with systems like Kubernetes. So the fabric is quickly learning about containers and allows me now to import relevant information from those environments and to build security around them. The second area is around endpoint management systems. These are the systems that my administrators are using daily to classify and monitor the endpoints, and a lot of business logic and other context information exists over there. And we're now able in 6.2 to integrate with those systems for displaying the relevant context information in, say, something like topology view, and also for controlling dynamic security around the endpoints as well. Now, once I've gone ahead and enabled any of these connectors, it's going to show up on my Fabric Connector dashboard, and I'm going to be immediately able to start seeing information coming from that third-party device. If we take AWS as an example here, I can right-click on it. I can quickly pull up from this same dashboard view all of the information that it can see across the connector. So I can see all the different tags and groups and security groups that are defined over there. I can see what instances are running over there. I can see what operating system is running on them, what network they're connected to, and I can even pull back the things like vulnerabilities, which again we saw earlier in the topology view. Taking the AWS example again, I can right-click on it and I can pull up a filtered list of the policy table. This is going to show me which instances I've defined in my configuration that I'm protecting on that AWS segment. It's going to be allowing me to see what policies are defined allowing traffic in and out of it, and specifically what inspection is being applied to that traffic. And just like with the policies, I can also right-click and pull up other information. So for example, I can see what automation rules I've defined. If I have some Lambda functions running in AWS, I can see exactly what's the fabric calling, how are they calling it, and what's it being used for. And speaking of automation, let's take a quick look at some of the new capabilities in 6.2 within the automation framework. Now, in version 6, we have a very, very fine-grained and robust framework. It's able to trigger off of any event coming from any device connected to the fabric. So in short, any device that can generate a log can be the source of automation in 6.0. Now in 6.2, I'm able to trigger off of more complex rules. I can go to FortiAnalyzer and I can define an event handler which has access to all the logs from all the devices that are connected to the fabric over time. So what this means is that I can now build more complex rules which trigger automation, And over time, as my process evolves and I learn more information, I can continuously refine my event handlers to trigger off of exactly what's needed. And if we look at some of the different actions that are now available in 6.2, you're going to start to see a lot more of those fabric connectors being populated within the automation framework. So what that means is you're going to be able to call a lot of different automation rules against public cloud, against private cloud, and against endpoint management systems, which is basically allowing you to now build more and more automation around your day-to-day activities. Now, the automation framework itself is very, very granular. It can allow operations teams to assess their process, identify those very, very specific items which take a disproportionate amount of time, and to automate them. But maybe next, let's take a look one level up at a more end-to-end process, a much more complicated process where the security fabric can really start to show the power that it has. And the process that we're going to take a look at now is around compliance. Now, compliance itself is a very complex topic. There's a lot of stakeholders, a lot of different types of information and data which is not familiar, and it involves a lot of different manual steps in most environments today. And the security rating feature really provides a very nice framework for running different compliance checks across all of the different devices which are attached to the fabric, and giving back a report that is organized according to priorities, according to severities, and giving really, really actionable information that's relative to compliance. And if we take a look at the rating report, you're going to see it's a little bit reorganized in 6.2. It contains all of the information in one screen. It packs all of the different results for all the different products it's running against into a single report. And by clicking on the different entries, you're able to see all of the information for the different devices, what that check was, what's the recommended way to fix it, and even ability to apply the fix and apply the changes directly in this screen without navigating away. You're also going to find some additional filters and other things at the top, so you're able to quickly say, okay, just show me the critical events and take care of those first before moving on to, say, the lower priority items. Now, everything we just saw here is already part of version 6, aside from maybe how the data is organized. And building on this in 6.2, we can really start to leverage the security rating as a powerful component of daily operations. Just like we saw in the topology, security rating also expands to more parts of the network. Within the results we're looking at here, we can see the same set of rating checks running against many devices in the fabric. This includes the core FortiGates, plus the switches, the APs, and even other networking devices like the FortiAnalyzer and the FortiManager in this report. And also, similar to the topology, we can see it expanding to third-party segments as well, like AWS. I can now pull back the same set of CIS control checks, validating my cloud segments, and have a unified report across all of my infrastructure. And speaking about CIS controls, this is where the real power of security rating can now be seen in 6.2. So far, we've been looking at the Fortinet best practices view, but let's say, for example, I have a PCI auditor coming on site. I need to be able to provide him with evidence and information relative to PCI, which of course my operations team is not really equipped to do. But by using CIS controls within the security rating, I'm now able to map these results to other compliance standards. So with a single click, I can reorganize all of these results according to PCI. I can change the order, I can change the sections, I can rename everything, all to match the PCI standard, which of course is what my auditor needs to prepare his final report. Now, compliance is a large process with a lot of information and a lot going on. And just like with IOC or critical vulnerabilities, I can now also populate this same information directly into the topology view. So as an operations guy, I can have one place to look that's going to highlight all of my very, very critical information and all tied back to that very, very rich information underneath. So that concludes today's demo. Please note all of the things you've seen here are also available on display in the Tech Expo. So please take the time, pay a visit to the Tech Expo, and talk to the experts that are there. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, well, you can put your pens away now. It's over with. I will say, from Fortinet's perspective, that although we do some PowerPoint, we absolutely make sure that PowerPoint is backed up by the real thing. And talking the real thing, we have an education and training course called Network security expert, and it starts at level 1 for me. It goes up to level 8 for the more sophisticated and technical people, and we had a few level 8, NSE 8 as we call them, teams here competing. In fact, what they were doing was taking some of the technology you just saw and building out a fabric, and the goal was to create a fabric with the best security rating. As you saw Robert talk about that security rating is how well you built that fabric, how secure that fabric is. And so we had some teams competing for that. I think it was a few days ago, maybe last night, and we have some winners. So let's have a look. I think I'm going to announce it in reverse order. Oh, here's some photos of people in deep thought competing. Well, most of them are in deep thought. And the winners are, starting with third place, Robert Lohan from SimQuest, United States, Tim De Cohen from Layer 9 Networks, Belgium. Come on up. Congratulations. Congratulations. I need my trusty assistants to hand out the medals. Just like the Olympics. So that was the United States and Belgium combination. Let's see, you took second place. Oh, popular. Stefan Zach from Germany and Dominic Halby from Germany. And, oh, now you notice, oh, in a minute. And the gold place goes to Luke from SwitchShop UK. Congratulations, Luke. Now, this just goes to show that people from the UK are extremely smart because he did it on himself. Now also note that Fortinet's a very generous company. So even though you finished in third place, you still get a gold medal, a gold medal, and a gold medal. We're a very generous company. Did we get some photos? Let's do a photo at the front here. Thank you. By the way, for NSE-1, some of you may know it's already public. In fact, we have about between 500 and 2,000 people a week who take NSE-1. Go to Fortinet.com. You can take that course. As of yesterday, we just released NSE-2 is public as well. So you can go on Fortinet.com and take that. NSE-8s, out of the 200,000 people on NSE, we only have about 220 NSE-8s. So that's a special group of people in many ways. So congratulations. Oh, we haven't finished with the Nerds Fest. Here's the actual table showing the results. So you can see as they're building their fabrics, you can see how on the right-hand side the security rating. So Luke had a positive 252. The top three, they're very close. So great gamification of the fabric. So next, we have what we call the virtual SPU. We announced our SD-WAN ASIC yesterday. So I'd like to welcome Darren Turnbull, our Senior Vice President of Strategic Solutions.
So, good morning, America. How are you? Good? Okay. So I've only got a little short session to take you through, but this is the English part of the conference. So John called me up a few months ago. He said, Darren, I need you to talk about chips. I said, that's fine. I know a lot about chips. A lot about chips, okay? We can talk about chips. But then I remembered, John lives in America. And these are chips in America, right? And then I thought to myself, what do I know about chips? So I gave it some thought. And I know this about chips. These are French fries. There's a special thing about French fries. They come from Belgium. All right. Now, the reason I know that is I've been to Belgium. And if you've been to Belgium, after about 5 minutes, they tell you this. Okay, thank you, Belgium, for French fries. Now, this is our normal disclaimer. There's going to be some stuff in here that I'm going to make up, all right? That's basically what it is. So, anyway, you've seen this kind of picture before. This is a FortiGate. This is every FortiGate. But let's take another look at it. You can see the external ports. That's important. We realized that very early on. You need to plug into something. We have the integrated switch fabric. That's how all the ports talk to all the other ports. Not every FortiGate has this, but this is the architecture that we have. Then we have what we call the SPU. Back in the day, this was the FortiASIC. Now it's the Security Processing Unit. We have the CPU, the management plane, where you get all of the features that Jordan and his team are creating, the stuff that you saw Robert go through. Then you have the management I/O. That's where you plug in your iPhone charger. That's a free feature, by the way. And then we have, optionally, redundant power storage. Okay? That is a hardware FortiGate. Now, we've kind of passed peak FortiGate, probably Q1 last year. We had more than 100 different FortiGates. That's a lot of work for our engineering team to support. They have to understand the hardware between where all the fancy features that you've seen and the actual hardware itself. But we realized hardware is very important. And we talk to the hardware guys and we say, well, you know, how do you get the performance? And they say, well, we understand the hardware. We know what it is. The SPUs, we understand that. I'm like, okay. Can you do that with the virtual machine? And they say, yes. Why haven't you done it? No one asked us. Okay? When you've got really smart people, you have to ask them to do things. So we said, can you do some work to understand the hardware in a virtual world? Sure, we can do that. Okay. So this did a number of things. It reduces the complexity of FortiOS. That's a good thing. It's a good thing for me. It's a good thing for you. If it's simple, it goes wrong less. The hardware guys understand all of the complex stuff underneath. And they can leverage the hardware underneath the virtual machine to get some performance advantage. So I said, okay, that's great. So we've done that. So what? What did it do? What did it actually achieve? So we went from an 8 gig firewall to a 60 gig firewall, just by talking to our hardware guys and saying, can you make this faster? Yes, we can. This is what we call the virtual NPU, network processing unit. That's a massive increase in performance. So then we said, OK, you can do that at the network layer. Can you do that with anything else? And they said, well, we'll take a look. They're not too happy with this. They only managed to double the performance. So they're still working on it. But you can see, by talking to the right people and asking the right questions, you can really make a difference. But it's a challenge. And you can see the difference between 60 gig and 8.1 gig. That's quite a big difference. So how do you close that gap? How do you do more with it? You have to look at the hardware. Really hit the metal. So you probably heard yesterday, world's first. It's the world's first FortiSOC 4, obviously. I have one. It's very small. This is a 36 gig firewall. And when you hold it in your hand, it kind of feels like a 32 gig firewall. But the extra smarts take it to 36 gig. So let's have a look. Some fun facts about this chip. 28 nanometers. Does anybody know how big a nanometer is? It's really, really small. Does anybody have a dollar bill in their pocket? Can you take it out? Take it out now. Have a look. If you were a nanometer tall, how long would it take you to walk across that dollar bill? Anybody know? Anybody care? Anybody taken a dollar bill out of their pocket? It would take you 24 years to walk across that dollar bill. I'm not going to suggest you try it, because no one's going to wait 24 years. The other thing you can see there, 108 million gates. That is a 70% increase on the SOC 3. That's a massive jump in complexity. Huge. As well as having a CPU on the SOC, remember, it's this big. We have an MP6 and a CP9. If you don't know what they are, somebody in the room will tell you at length, because they've been to Star Wars, okay? So that's the SOC 4. We add features to the SOC 4. This is 2 quad-core CPUs, multi-gigabit Ethernet, bunch of features, bunch of capability. And I know what you're thinking. So what? What does that mean? So we take from a SOC 3 to a SOC 4, we go from 10 gig firewall to a 36 gig firewall. Massive increase. We go from 3 gig of IPsec to 12.5 gig of IPsec on this chip. Now, I know that's a bit nerdy for a lot of people in the room, and some of you are going, I don't really care about that. What is he talking about? But this is huge. We look at next generation firewall. You can see the massive uptick in performance. We're leveraging the CP9 performance here. Remember, this is at the chip level, okay? A single chip does this. You can see the SSL acceleration on a single chip. We're not just going to put one chip in a box, right? This is Fortinet, right? So, you maybe have seen the 100F. The 100F is at the Tech Expo. This is the first ever device to have a SOC 4. Look at the ports. There are two 10 gig ports in there. This is a 20 gig firewall on a chip. These are the performance metrics of the 100F. This is available now. This is massive. This is a game changer, okay? Huge amount of performance. Some of these numbers are less than what the chip can do. These are design choices that we have to make. You can't just put a chip in a box and it all works by magic. But this is how we look at SD-WAN. SD-WAN performance, huge. But then we take it another step. What can you add to your SD-WAN? You can add wireless to your SD-WAN. So you add wireless. This is new. This is our first 802.11ax nerdy Wi-Fi 6 access point. This has a 2.5 gig interface on there. Massive jump in performance from the previous model. Huge. This is our first multi-gigabit switch. It's so new, I don't have a photograph. If you go to the Tech Expo, rumor has it, they have one. But look at what exists within there, as well as multiple gigabit, 2.5, 5, 10 gig, dual power supply, UPoE, 60 watts on a port. I've no idea what you're going to use that for, but there we go. Massive performance. This is going to be big. This, plus the access point, plus the 100F. Those of you that are looking for solutions for SD-WAN, this is the solution. This solves all the problems. I'm not going to go through the security features. You all know what they are. But you can see where this would sit. We call it SD branch. But SD branch isn't just about the hardware. It isn't just about the switch. It isn't just about the access point. You need applications to start to make a difference, to start to answer that so what question. We have all of this capability, so what? We have all this hardware acceleration offered by this. We can add this thing we call FortiPresence. Now, FortiPresence is an application that runs on top of your SD branch. I don't know anything about FortiPresence. But what I do know is a man that knows about FortiPresence. That's my job, right? So I'm going to bring Ben Wilson on stage. Ben is our VP of Wireless Product. He's going to tell you everything you need to know about FortiPresence. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Darren. Morning, everybody. So I think it's pretty clear from the discussions that we've been having here that we are data people. We talk about data storage. We talk about data integrity. We talk about data flows. But what I'm going to take a couple of minutes to talk about today is data that you might not even know you have available to you. Because data is everywhere. As our CISO said this morning, we have devices, phones, watches, fitness trackers. And what you may not realize is that when you have those devices on you, they're searching for services. And when they do that, they give out a unique identifier. That unique identifier means that we can give you presence analytics. Now, we should all be familiar with website analytics. It means you can track where somebody goes on a website. You can see how long they've spent looking at something. In fact, you can tell pretty much about everything what they do. Well, what presence analytics gives you is the data points you're used to from online analytics, but for the real world. And this is not just some fantasy data. This is real data points. It's drawn from big data, real data that's all around us, and it's turned into real business intelligence. And it helps those that use it make smarter decisions, giving them a real return on investment. It has lots of applications, from a single retail outlet to multi-chains to conference centers, even to theme parks. I could tell you how long you've had to queue for your chips, be they French fries or potato chips or whatever you want to call them. So welcome to FortiPresence. FortiPresence is a cloud-based presence analytics platform which is supported by all of our Wi-Fi solutions, and it's particularly applicable to SD branch. It's designed and built for real-life business intelligence, and it was launched in Q2 last year. And it delivers the insights customers need using the data that most don't even know they had. We can kind of look at it from 5 aspects. You've got location analytics, and that gives you the ability to look at a specific site or map and track behavior of an individual user. Presence analytics allows you to take a more helicopter or holistic view and gives you how many and where. Social authentication goes beyond that. It allows you to encourage visitors to hook up to your guest Wi-Fi, and then you can draw demographic and insights from the users of it. And then you can bring all of that together in customizable reports and dashboards that you can tune to your own experience. So typical requests that come in are really split into these 3 basic silos: location, time, and who. The info can be viewed and collated by site, even by areas in a site. Raw numbers of devices can be viewed alongside how many users have logged on. What's the busiest time? How long did people stay in a site or an area? And this then leads to using the data. When I've sat and discussed this technology with interested customers, the feedback and the use cases have always been about being able to understand why. Why does this happen here and not there? Why is this my busiest store or area? Why is the rent so high here? Now, we can't answer why. But what we can do is give you the data you need to find out. So you can draw logical conclusions and see beyond the normal metrics of sales versus expenditure. So using the 5 pieces before, you get chance to get business-wise by understanding the whys. Let's look at a Fortinet SD branch deployment example. It's a retail CEO. There's 2 stores, part of a much wider chain. One seems to be doing well, till receipts are up. The other, not so well. The weekly reports come in from the managers, but it's difficult to get insights apart from the data points I said before, sales versus costs. So this is where presence comes in. Is one store simply busier? What does the data tell us? Well, the CEO can log into FortiPresence and get an instant dashboard for each store, adjust the time period, even drill down to a specific area in the store. Then we can look at the two Fortinet SD branch-enabled stores side by side, and this is where the real data becomes apparent to me. It's easy to immediately see that San Jose has an average dwell time of nearly 20 minutes compared with 5 minutes in Sunnyvale. So why is that? Is there anything else we can look at which might tell us? How about client and device density and where visitors spend their time? San Jose looks good. Lots of people in clothing, electronics. But how does this compare with Sunnyvale? Much less people spending time in the actual areas where goods are. But this store has a dedicated section for checkouts. What I didn't say before was that in San Jose, they've removed the checkouts and implemented a mobile POS system where assistants can go and take payments and deal with customers. So perhaps the conclusion that we could draw here is that the implementation of that technology is creating more space for customers and creating a better, more inviting environment. Perhaps even seeing queues at the checkouts is stopping people coming in, which may well reflect in the bounce rate that we could see. All of these data points can be used to extrapolate and make smarter business decisions. In fact, we can even measure traffic flow between sites, numbers in and out. So you could run a marketing campaign one week and then measure it the following week and the changes to how people have moved through. FortiPresence even has a built-in captive portal, and it means that you can tune it to get the information you need from customers who are going to use the system. In fact, here's a quick snapshot we took yesterday of a system we've got running at Tech Expo, which is allowing us to see which booths are most popular with people. So we've covered the intelligence and the insights that can be gained, but what about actually deploying and using the system? FortiPresence is a great overlay for SD branch scenarios. It can also be used with any Fortinet Wi-Fi wireless system, be it the built-in FortiWi-Fi, be it the built-in controller in the FortiGate, be it managing the APs directly from FortiAP Cloud, or the dedicated FortiWLC wireless LAN controller. In fact, the new range of 802.11 AX APs that Darren mentioned before have dedicated radios for running scanning applications like FortiPresence. Like most of our cloud services, there's a free tier you can utilize. 7 days data retention means you can see the kind of information that you can extract from the system and then scale it up with the per AP per year subscription, which gives you a year's insights and allows you to look at the medium and long-term trends which will bring the most value. It's also really easy to access. FortiPresence is part of Fortinet One, which is our unified cloud single sign-on system. In fact, you can see on the slides there a lot of the different services which are available. One that's particularly interesting is FortiGate Cloud. FortiGate Cloud allows you to log and manage and analyze your FortiGate directly from the cloud. It's got a really simple and easy to use interface, and there's been a lot of management and analysis functionality put into this system, so I'd encourage everyone to go and look at Tech Expo, where there's a really good demo of it. In fact, go and take a look at all of the cloud services and see how they can enable and drive growth in yours and your customers' business. So you have FortiOS 6.2. giving you massive insights. You have the SOC 4, which is giving you huge performance. You have the ability to deploy security policies all the way to the edge with FortiAP and FortiSwitch. And now you have the ability to utilize the insights that that equipment can give you with FortiPresence. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Darren and Ben. Not often you can find an engineer with a sense of humor. There you go. But you can see with that small sample just the scale of the investment from Fortinet. I think last year we spent over $200 million on R&D, and that's what you have to spend to keep up. We're spending that in network security, in cloud security, in OT, IoT, in security operations across cloud, appliances, virtual machines, APIs, et cetera, and we'll continue that investment. We've had 3 Brits in a row. Enough of these Brits. It's time for a true American.